I'm Rosa, and I am a teacher for one of the cell biology labs at Northwestern, and I actually teach the SPS section of this course. And I've been teaching this course for the past 3 years, and a lot of the things that I've seen in this course is pretty similar to things in the literature, where this course has a lot of pre-med students, and they often just view research as a way to become a doctor, and they've already ruled out research as a possible career choice. And it's really important that these students do have some sort of research interest because there's a shortage of physician scientists. So I thought an interesting way to approach this problem would be to encourage student learning about research by trying to embed a social media context into the curriculum. So my research question was looking to see if sharing content and current findings about biology research in this social media-like format would increase pre-med students' interest and engagement in a lab biology course. And my hypothesis was that by incorporating this new activity, the students would be able to increase their interaction with their students as well as increase their engagement to different biology content. And just going over the course context again, most of the students are pre-med students or some other type of pre-medical professional student, and they are post-bac students, and there are about 25 students that were taking the spring quarter of this undergrad biology lab sequence. And this was the third part of the biology lab sequence. So there was 220 and 221 course that I had taught prior. So I've had these students for basically the entire year. So following the end of winter quarter, I took a survey to see if the students in my class use different types of social media. And for the most part, my students were using social media, and most of them were also using social media to follow different types of science-related content. And then when I was trying to figure out how to design this activity, I was interested in what type of media platforms the students use. And almost 100% of the students use Instagram. So I really wanted to use a type of Instagram portal where students are looking at pictures with these really short type of almost tweets that show the major content of the research article. And in order to evaluate student motivation, I used the ARCS model, and this was developed by John Keller in the 80s, and it really looks at 4 conceptual categories, including attention, relevance, confidence, and satisfaction. And I chose this model because it's been validated in a variety of different undergrad courses, as well as virtual learning environments. And this was really important because I had both in-person and virtual students. So I really wanted to make sure that this model wasn't just used for in-person teaching. And this model, as I said, is broken down into 4 different categories. And then for each category, there are several different questions that go into it in order to evaluate. And then I had students rate these different questions on a scale of 1 to 5, indicating how they felt about these different statements. So when I was implementing this assignment, the students were required to make 2 different discussion board posts, and I had the first one due in the first couple weeks of class, and then the final one due in those final weeks of class. And then they were also required to reply to at least 2 other discussion posts from their classmates. And then they were also encouraged to continue this discussion beyond the requirement. And then there were pre and post course surveys that were given using that ARCS questionnaire through Canvas. And this allowed me to do a paired analysis at the end. And the questions were randomly arranged, and then they were presented one at a time. And then in the post-class survey, there were several open-ended questions looking at how students felt about this activity as well as their motivation. So this is kind of what the first discussion board post looked like. I really wanted to make it interactive and fun since they were going to be posting different images from articles on there. I also wanted to simplify it as much as possible so they were able to kind of click and have basically had a guideline already set for them, and had everything that needed to be included. And the first discussion board assignment was really open. I just wanted them to post about some biology research that they were interested in and connected to something in their future goals. And this is a little video kind of looking at what that first discussion board looked like. And as you can see, students are posting a picture along with a little tweet about the importance of the article or some of the main findings. And then you can see that students are beginning to comment and start discussions, as well as like some of their other classmates' posts. And just looking at the interaction with discussion, the first discussion board, 2 interactions were the requirement, but there were many students who went beyond this and had discussions with their classmates. And then the second discussion board post was pretty similar, except I wanted them to find something that somehow related to something we had learned in the past year. I wanted them to be able to see the connection between what we were doing in lab and how that related to their future. And it was pretty similar, the amount of interactions between their classmates. So a lot of them did the minimum of 2, but there were many classmates who continued their conversations with their classmates. So then I did the analysis looking at the pre and post course surveys and the 4 different parts of the ARCS model. And although some of the changes were minor, many of the changes were significant. So there was a small increase in their attention to different types of biology research, but this was not significant. But they did feel that learning about biology research became more useful and relevant to them. The biggest effect was seen in confidence. So many of the students felt that by learning how to look for different articles and read through more articles, they became more confident in actually reading biology literature. And then there was also a significant increase in their satisfaction from reading articles, and they were able to enjoy the content in what they were reading following this assignment. And then after, in the post-class survey, because the numbers were so high in the initial pre-course survey, I ended up doing a retrospective pre-post course question that I included. And this was asking before the class, how confident were you in this? And then after the class, how confident did you feel? And I was really happy that I included this in the post-class survey because this is where we actually saw some of the most significant results. And students actually felt a lot more confident in finding and understanding the research that they were reading. And then from the post-class survey, I had several open-ended questions, which led to a lot more data and information than I kind of knew what to do with. So I just wanted to include a couple different comments that were trends in what the students were saying. But overall, students had really enjoyed the activity, and students found that they were really interested in what their classmates were writing about. And they were able to broaden some of their horizons with what types of research they were reading. They also felt a lot more confident. They used to be intimidated by reading research papers, but then they were able to kind of develop different approaches to making reading literature more simplified for them. And then they also felt that this was a great way to share information and gain excitement about different areas. There were a few neutral or more negative comments that a few students had left, so I did include those. So a few students felt that the other things that students were posting weren't that interesting, so it didn't really broaden their horizons at all. And then some of the students were just reading the summaries of the papers rather than reading the entire paper, so they didn't think it actually allowed them to practice some of these different skills. However, overall, the students from the data analysis as well as their open-ended questions really enjoyed the discussion board assignment, and it impacted students' motivation to read and learn about biology research. It had a large influence on students' relevance and confidence, and they felt that they were better at doing reading about biology literature. And they also, a common theme was that they thought it allowed them to connect with their classmates virtually. So I really think that this is a great assignment for the virtual classroom as well as asynchronous classroom to get students to interact with each other and engage with their classmates. Another common theme was that the discussion board posts were only at the beginning and the end of the quarter. So they didn't really feel that this allowed them to interact with their students throughout the entire quarter. So I think it'd be beneficial to modify this and try to incorporate this throughout more of the quarter. They also felt it was only a small portion of their grade, so they didn't feel like they had to devote much time to it. So possibly making it a larger part of the grade would increase some of the motivation, but there was a lot of assignments I think would have to take the place of some of the other activities that take place in this course. And overall, I would like to thank everyone part of the Searle Center, especially my STAR colleagues and many of the people who have helped with STAR, especially Lauren Woods. And I'm super grateful for the Searle Center, especially for kind of helping launch my career in teaching. So this is I'm happy to say, I'm not happy to say, but I'm excited to start my next journey. And this is my final Searle Center presentation.